Alright, so I figured I'd make this video, not because I want to, but because I kind of feel like I have to at this point. I'm not a big gamer, a big streamer in terms of views or followers or anything like that, but there has been so much hate for this game, so much hate for Anthem, for I think, some valid points on paper. Factually, there's things that are wrong with this game or that could be better. But the level of emotion that is tied to those facts in terms of the hatred that is being thrown at this game is just, from my perspective, just so overkill, so overblown, and a little hypocritical in some ways, and just not very productive for gamers, for developers, for publishers, for really the people who enjoy games, right? People who enjoy making them, people who enjoy playing them. And it's gotten to this point where I feel like I've got to put my 2 cents out there, throw it into the mix, because there is just so much hatred, and I don't think it's deserved. I don't think it's warranted. I think there is a lot of it that is so overblown that it is negative. I see a lot of stuff. And I'm going to try and be as honest as possible. I'm going to criticize BioWare and EA a little bit, and kind of bookend this with that criticism. So maybe I should start there. And, first and foremost, first impressions are really, really important. And so whether it's BioWare or any game developer, putting your best foot forward and putting something out there that represents your product and why you think it's valuable is really important, so that people can understand what it is you're offering. Make that really solid first impression. And I think Anthem let a lot of people down and was, disappointing in that regard. However, not to the level of like the hatred that this game is receiving, but I would say that my criticism for BioWare and any game developer putting out a product is make sure what you're putting out there you're proud of, make sure that it is going to get the reception that you want as much as possible. You can never guarantee it 100%, but I think Anthem fails in some ways of not living up to the expectations that were set out, not living up to the hype, and ultimately disappointing and falling a little flat. However, like I said, I don't think that warrants the hatred that's coming at this game, and so that's my first kind of point of criticism that I would throw at BioWare is put it out there. First impressions matter; they're important. Make sure you're putting your best foot forward. Now, on to the actual criticisms of this game, because I've got some feedback for reviewers, and ultimately, I want this to be a productive criticism. I want reviewers to take something away from it. I want game developers and publishers to take something away from it, because I don't want to just throw out opinion that doesn't serve a purpose. And I think a lot of the criticism towards this game does not serve a purpose other than just to shit on this game. I'll start first with the kind of attitude I see right now in reviewing this game and how people are approaching those reviews. Is it feels like most people criticizing this game are happy that they hate it. They're happy that, from their perspective, it sucks. They're giddy that it's failing. A lot of stuff coming out now about sales figures and how, it's not performing the way that maybe it was expected. And it's almost like people are happy that the game is failing from their perspective. Like they're, in some weird way, satisfied that the game isn't good from their perspective. Why in the world would anyone ever be happy? If you enjoy playing games, wouldn't you be sad that a game isn't good? Why would you be happy that you think it's bad? That it's not productive, right? It serves no purpose in being happy at something's failure. And I think some of that is people, who have issues with EA. But in general, I like playing games. I want games to be good. When games are bad or don't live up to my expectations, I'm sad. Like in that disappointment. I'm not happy if something turns out poorly, because so many people worked on it. You want it to be good. I want every game that comes out to be a 10 out of 10. No part of playing games makes me feel happy if it's bad, right? Disappointed, first and foremost. And then there's a lot of people who are so offended by this game that they spew like the most hateful criticism and comments, and it comes from this place of anger, which also is very strange to me. You know, why would that be your reaction, to be angry at something not being good? You know, be sad. If you don't like it, I think that's kind of disappointing, and that's where I would leave it. I wouldn't let that turn into hatred. This game is not actively harming you or doing anything to you. It's not turning itself on and taking over your other games. So like any feelings toward this game are self-inflicted from the person who chose to play it. But I'm going to get to the actual criticisms that have been leveled at this game, because I think that's really where this conversation needs to go. And the first and foremost is that this game is repetitive. You hear that all the time, people saying how repetitive and boring this game is, and there's nothing interesting about it. You just go around, you shoot the bad guys, and yeah, it's cool to fly around as Iron Man, but like you're just shooting stuff and it's boring. I don't know what people expect from a game, but chess is repetitive. Halo is repetitive. Destiny, Fallout, any game ever is repetitive. Like, life is repetitive. You wake up every morning, you go to sleep every night, you eat 3 meals a day, you go to work. Like, repetition is normal. It's very rare that stuff is going to stand out as being inherently unique or an experience you've never had before, especially for a game that is built on rules and following similar patterns. So for this to be repetitive, to me is not really a criticism you could level at any game. Now, if you were standing in a room, walking around in a circle, I mean, that's repetitive. That'd be a very, very boring game, I suppose. But if there's a purpose to it and an intent, I guess that's good. What I'm saying is, the games that are out there, almost every game is repetitive. So saying Anthem is any more or less repetitive than anything else is, I think, an oversimplification. And you might say that it's boring, and the fact that, like, if you're not a fan of shooters or third-person shooters, you could say it's repetitive and boring in that regard. However, that's not unique to Anthem. Anthem is a third-person shooter like many other third-person shooters. Warframe, Gears of War, and many others. So I think that kind of criticism is a little hollow. It's a little simplistic, and it doesn't really say a whole lot about the game, the people who do enjoy it, or even maybe why someone wouldn't like it. I think there's something else going on than it just being repetitive. Just because it's just the nature of games in general. Now, what else do people say about the game? They have all sorts of criticism they want to throw at this game. But one of the big ones you hear quite often is that there's no end game. Mind you, this game has been out for a weekend. I'm not even 2 days. I'm a casual gamer. I got this when it came out on the 22nd, played it for the weekend, and we're at Monday. So this game has been out not even a week, for full public access. And I get that it was out early for VIP demo access and VIP early access, all that stuff, right? But for the general public, a regular person who just likes playing games, isn't a reviewer, isn't someone who wants to critique video games, just wants to play them, this game has been out for less than a week, a handful of days so far. So, no end game. Okay, well, sure, that's fair. If you make it to the end game and there's nothing for you to do, all right, I can imagine being frustrated by that. But you also got to understand game development. Literally everyone who buys the game is going to play the intro mission. As the game goes on, less and less people are going to be experiencing that content. So inherently, in game development, in game design, you need to start at the beginning and work towards the end. Now, this goes back to my opening criticism of BioWare. Should the end game be stronger? If you want to make that first impression for the hardcore fans and reviewers, of course, that's probably ideal. However, you cannot focus on endgame first and create a fully built-out endgame experience when there is only, I don't want to say a handful, right? Most people should, if you have a good game, people should make it to the end game. But every player is going to experience the beginning. Only a handful are going to experience the end. You want to take people from the beginning, get them to the end, and give them a satisfying experience along the way. But you always have to prioritize the beginning. I'd compare this to something like Warframe. Warframe is so bloated and so convoluted at this point because so much has been added to it over the years that the beginning of the game is actually extremely frustrating. And you have to play for hours, 30, 40 hours, before you get to the Warframe proper, and even beyond that, 100 hours. Like, you have to invest hundreds of thousands of hours into Warframe to experience, the vast endgame that's there. But it's taken them years and years and years to build all that up. And unfortunately, new players to Warframe, it's actually like pretty despicable how bad the beginning of Warframe is. Those first 30 hours are brutally boring and repetitive, and all the things people say about Anthem, you could easily level against Warframe, and yet Warframe is praised in the gaming community for being amazing, fantastic, and Anthem's garbage, and Warframe's great. It's like, well, they've been going for, 6 years at the thing, adding and bolting things on and not cleaning up their opening experience, where Anthem, I think, is a far better introductory experience. Now, should the endgame be better? Why not? Yes, absolutely make it better. But, for the launch of a game, focus making the beginning and the core content, the core gameplay, for the people who just like to play games, make that a good experience, and then build out the end game as you're taking people on this journey, right? That's how Destiny did it, that's how Division did it, that's how Warframe did it. Like, it is a normal experience, a normal process for a game to follow the same patterns that Anthem is on right now. So, for all the reviewers shitting on Anthem for not having endgame, do you expect there to be a 5 years worth of content right at launch? Like, it seems like that's a cheap demand. I don't think you can really expect that from a game like this. And we've also got the criticism that Anthem has a terrible story. The story is bad, it's no good, it's garbage, and from BioWare, we deserve better. Well, I don't really know what... story is subjective, I suppose, but what's here is not terrible. It's certainly better than Destiny. And that game, I know there's a lot of people who hate Destiny, but for everything good and bad about Destiny, it's got its fan base, it's got people who like it and enjoy it, and basically, from Taken King onward, for Destiny 1 at least, that game has a lot of fans in a way that, I think Anthem is certainly capable of as well. So, and Anthem has the better story, I'd say, compared to Destiny. Vanilla Destiny, that story is non-existent. There is literally nothing guiding you through that story. And in Anthem, you have cutscenes, you have characters who talk and you can interact with, and it has story. Now, you might not like the story, maybe it could be better, of course, but how many movies come out that don't have good stories? How many books are written that don't have good stories? Like, it is a spectrum, and I don't think it's, 10 out of 10, 0 out of 0. Anthem is probably somewhere in between. As far as other games in the genre are concerned, I would say Anthem has one of the best stories for the genre. Definitely better than Destiny. Vanilla Destiny, anyway. Better than the Division. The Division story is, like, I couldn't even tell you what the story is in the Division, other than it's the apocalypse. And I played through that whole first game, and it was not enjoyable from a story perspective. Warframe, also story, like, what? The presentation in Warframe, you get messages in your inbox. It's like a story via email. You have the story stuff that happens later on, certainly. But again, for that opening, 30 hours, that initial experience, there is virtually no story in Warframe. None discernible. And people will criticize Anthem for having, your codex, and you got to pick stuff up and read it, and the story's just terrible. It's no good. It's all garbage. By what metric are you comparing Anthem to? If you're looking at the marketplace and the other games in the genre, I'm sorry, but Anthem is definitely superior to pretty much all of its competition. Now, if you're comparing it to BioShock or Fallout or Mass Effect, yeah, it suffers a little bit, right? This is not a 10 out of 10 story. It's got some weaknesses, some pitfalls. Not the most unique or original, but hey, it's something.
Shaper energy in the area.
We've also got the characters and how bad their facial animations are. Oh, can you believe that BioWare would put out this garbage? These characters, they're so creepy and they stare at you, and oh, they're weird and their faces animate strange. Again, I don't really know what people are talking about. The facial animation, okay, sure, maybe there's games that do it better, but not many. The facial animations in this game are pretty solid. And the characters, oh, they overact. Maybe. But not a lot. Like, not to a point where I'm offended by the content, where it makes me cringe and groan and I want to skip the story. It's like, if you want to skip the story and you want to do the gameplay, that's fine. I get it. The story's not for everyone. But there's nothing about the story that's made me want to avoid it. I've wanted to enjoy it and learn what's going on and hear what these characters have to say and interact with them and talk to them and see why it is I'm doing what I'm doing. Unlike Destiny, which doesn't even present story content in the characters. It's just, I don't know what people are expecting, what they're comparing this content to. When you look at everything else that's out there, Warframe included, Warframe story and characters and animations, it's like, what? How is Anthem that much more hated than these other games that are cherished and beloved and praised by pretty much every reviewer, every YouTuber? Everyone out there loves Warframe, hates Anthem. I don't understand. You've also got criticism against Anthem that there's no satisfying loot. All the loot sucks. There's no good loot. When you get it, it's just a better spec'd version of something you already had, and it's not exciting, not satisfying. The loot sucks. I again, don't really know what people should expect. You know how many blues you get in Destiny? You know how many greens and blues and whites and just garbage you pick up throughout the Destiny experience? The only thing in Destiny that's even cool is like the legendaries and the exotics, and you can only equip one exotic for your weapons and one exotic for your armor. Everything else is legendary. So, and even those are just kind of regular guns. A little bit. They have different stats. Now they got random rolls again, but they're just guns. How is Anthem any different? How is this shit and Destiny's not? Division is guns. Oh, it's a different sniper rifle, different assault rifle, different grenade. It's all the same. Every game is the same. If you're shooting stuff, you're shooting them with a gun. Now, does this mean BioWare can't make it better? Well, they should. In fact, I would look to a game and don't look to the peers. I'd look to something like Crackdown. The guns in Crackdown are actually fun because they're unique and interesting and they're satisfying. Make a loot progression in Crackdown, and I'll be on board. Give me some guns like that, and I'm not even to the masterworks. I don't know what the end game loot is in Anthem, but I've seen end game in other games. And Warframe, there's a ton of loot. There's a ton of different guns and weapons. And you know what? Half of them suck. There's more than half. The guns and weapons in Warframe, there are some good ones and there are some bad ones. Some really bad ones. But you gotta use them because you gotta get your mastery rank up. So like, can they add more guns, more weapons to Anthem? Of course they can. They probably will. They're going to. So, just like every other game in the genre. So, what are we criticizing here? How should Anthem be any better than what everyone else is doing? I don't know. Look at Crackdown. Look at games that have fun, unique, interesting weapons. Focus on that kind of content. That's what I want to see. Get more of that, and that's fair for every game. Warframe, Destiny, Division, all of them. Make weapons fun, but I don't think you knock Anthem as being garbage and say that Destiny or Division do it any better. There's... It just seems like it seems like having different standards for different games. I don't think that's fair. I think you should kind of treat every game, the same, or at least come at it from the same perspective. So, I like the guns so far. There's an automatic sniper rifle that I really enjoy in Anthem. The powers are fun. The different javelins are fun. What is the standard by which this game is being judged different than everything else out in the marketplace? It just doesn't make sense to me. And finally, we got one of the biggest criticisms of all. This game was out for a week and it was buggy and glitched, and the loading screens took forever. And can you believe that? How could they put a game out like this? It's unfinished. It's terrible. Loading screens. What games are people playing that you're not hitting loading screens? Destiny? You think, sitting on a screensaver of your ship flying into a light void for 5 minutes is not a loading screen? What, just because it doesn't have a loading bar, and you sit there and you have no idea the progression, you have no idea how long it's going to take to load into a Crucible match, to load into a Strike? It's all the same stuff. There are loading screens in every game. It's normal, and it doesn't seem like Anthem's doing any particularly longer. There's that much more frequency of them compared to everything else that's out there. It's standard. So why does Anthem get shit on for having long loading screens and so many? You think Warframe doesn't have loading screens? You don't sit there steering your spaceship just aimlessly waiting for stuff to load in Warframe? That's not part of the game? No, it absolutely is. All these games have loading screens. Why judge Anthem any different? It was buggy. They fixed it within days, within a week. Most of the bugs, the main bugs were fixed. So, and no other game, you're not allowed to release a game that has bugs in it. They're supposed to have it perfect at launch. Now, should it be? Yeah, ideal. That'd be great. But also, who are we comparing this to? What other game are we using to judge Anthem by? I'm looking at it like everyone will say how beautiful this game is, how fun the gameplay is, and then they hold all these criticisms against it that are just as equally valid against pretty much every other game out there. This game is gorgeous. It's beautiful. Clearly time and effort, energy has been put into it. The flying is some of the best flying in, just the controls and being able to, the maneuver is some of the best in pretty much any game I've ever played. And that's saying a whole lot, because this is from the company BioWare. Oh, how far they've fallen. They can't tell good stories anymore. BioWare, did you play Mass Effect 1? That game was hot garbage from a technical perspective. The frame rate was abysmal. The elevators loading. We talk about loading screens. Get on an elevator in Mass Effect 1. My God. There's no comparison. They've come a long way in terms of making a quality game that looks incredible, that plays incredible, and of course it has problems. But we're less than a week out from when this thing was released to the public. If you want to get all high and mighty, okay, it's been out for a little over a week then. If you want to get on your high and mighty high horse of being a game reviewer and you got early access and you played it before everyone else and you're dissatisfied with it and you feel like it should be more catered towards you. Dude, they make games for everyone, right? They want to satisfy the casual gamer, the hardcore gamer. They want to make something for everyone that everyone can enjoy. Anthem is in a good enough spot right now to where I think both of those people are satisfied. Because when you look at most of the criticisms for this game, it's that there's not enough loot, there's not enough armor, there's not enough strongholds and quests. There's not enough. You know what that tells me? That tells me that people are enjoying the game and they like it. They like playing it. They want more of it. That's why there's not enough. Not enough means that it's good. So for people to hate on it and shit on it and be happy that the sales are down, just makes no sense to me. This game is enjoyable, very enjoyable. It's fun if you treat it for like what it is, which is a video game that it's a looter shooter. You're signing up for a certain gameplay flow, a certain cadence, a certain rhythm to what you're doing. There's the expectation that it will be improved upon and fixed over time. And so far, BioWare has been very responsive in terms of giving feedback and being honest and open. And here's where I'll bookend it with my final criticism and my final advice to BioWare and EA developers. The reason Warframe is so beloved is because those developers are so open and honest and transparent with the process, with admitting their faults, with admitting the stuff they want to change, and just being honest about it. If BioWare does the same thing, they will win people over. Because making games is not easy. This is not something that, it's the criticism like, oh, this game took 6 years. What were they doing for 6 years that they made this garbage? And, that's 6 years start to finish. The first year, they might not even have been coding anything. Or they were testing stuff out, they were playing around with things. It was probably 2 years before they had anything even remotely tangible. And then they spent time. You've obviously got tweaks and changes and things that, over the development process, the story evolves, the gameplay evolves, the loot progression. All this stuff is an evolution, and it takes time. And then you got to put it out there, and that's what you actually see, the actual feedback. What do people like? What do they not like? And the more open and transparent BioWare can be, the better the game will be, because people will see that they're working on it, see and understand why they did things the way they did. That's what DE is so great at with Warframe, is they're just honest. They get out there and they talk about what they're thinking, what they're trying, what they're experimenting with, and people appreciate it. And I'll tell you, Warframe is not the best experience. The only reason people now play Warframe, like people get into Warframe and can even stomach the beginning of it, is because there's people telling them that, like, it gets good. Don't worry, it gets good. It gets good. It's like Game of Thrones, right? You watch the first episode of Game of Thrones, you don't know what's happening, you don't know what's going on, it makes no sense, it's boring. Everyone says, it gets good. It gets good, just stick with it. And you've got to watch 6-7 hours, and then you're like, okay, I kind of see what's happening here, I kind of get it. Warframe is the exact same way. It is brutal, that initial slog. There is no way you can play the beginning of Warframe and find and get fun or satisfying or enjoyable. It is corridors upon corridors, fighting robots, doing the same thing over and over and over again with no loot. You're just picking up materials. You're just picking up materials that you don't know what they do, why you need them. You look at the store and you're like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. Do I pick these things up? Nope. Just keep playing with the same Warframe. You level up a little bit. You get all these mods, and you don't understand what anything is. It's all super complicated and confusing. It's like Warframe is pretty messy at the beginning, but people play it and they get into it because other people are saying it gets good. It gets good. And that's 6 years after it came out, and now it's so loved and so cherished. And Anthem, oh, it's garbage, it's terrible. Can you believe they put this game out there? It's collapsing, it's failing. It has no future. Well, I guess with that attitude, if you're gonna give up on it, I suppose, right? Not even give it a chance. Shit all over it, without offering any constructive criticism. See, it's not even constructive criticism. It's like, I like to call it like complimentary criticism, right? Compliment the game for what it's good at. Say we want more of things. Give feedback that's positive. Don't be happy that a developer's game is like, you want them to like go out of business because someone made a game you didn't like. Give feedback that's actually helpful, because it's a two-way street, right? I imagine game devs be a whole lot happier to do things that are cool and awesome and satisfy a community that embraces them and gives them positive feedback. rather than a bunch of angry game reviewers who just shit all over them. They clearly hard work and effort went into this game. And if people don't want to give them credit, don't want to help see the game live up to its full potential, right now there's so much potential for this game. It could be amazing. Third person, flying around, fighting all these guys, like, it is fun. And there's very few people who will argue with that. Most people will say this game is a fun game, it's enjoyable to play, it just has problems, right? Then support the game, support the developers. Don't just shit all over them. Excited and happy that they didn't, it's not setting the world on fire in terms of sales. That's why I just had to get out there, throw my 2 cents into the mix, because it's frustrating to see so much hatred for this game and see hardly anyone saying like, hey, I actually like this. This is enjoyable. This is cool, and it could be really cool. It could be a lot better. This game has more potential than Destiny. It has far more potential than The Division. I'd say it has far more potential than even Warframe, given enough time and investment in it. Warframe is messy. Destiny is overly simplistic. Anthem is fun, and it could be more fun, and it could be even better given some time and support. And I get it that it's not for everybody. People maybe they do get bored, maybe they get burnt out. But I don't think you can really say that this is a 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10. BioWare, needs to go die in a hole somewhere, and it's a total failure. This is a quality experience that has so much potential and so much room for improvement that really kind of like sky is the limit. There is so much that can be added to this game to improve it in a way that like the fundamentals are there. I've seen a lot of critics saying how the fundamentals and the basics of this game aren't there. It just doesn't, the core isn't good. And yet at the same time they'll say that the game is fun, that the basic gameplay is fun. So then what's the issue? You want more loot? They can add more loot. You want a better story? Well, I don't know why you're sad with the one that's there, upset with the one that's there, but like they can add more story content. They can add more enemies. They can add more dungeons and bosses, and they can add raids, and they can do all the cool, fun stuff. In addition to all the cool, fun stuff that's already here. So, why all the hate? Just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense that this game is getting so much hate, and I don't know if it's an EA thing, if it's kind of a culture of criticism in the state of video games right now, and how what works for critics and YouTubers, in that like just putting as much hatred out there as possible gets the most views and clicks and likes. But I like playing games. I enjoy gaming, and Anthem is actually the one game that like got me back into gaming. For the past year, I've been looking at what's been released, and Red Dead 2, and Destiny Forsaken, and all this stuff that like none of it really spoke to me, or really got me excited. Anthem got me excited. Just looking at this and how fun it is to play this content got me back into gaming in a way that like nothing else really grabbed me. And I don't know. There's just I don't know why there would be any expectation for this to be something different than what it is. Obviously, like if it had more content in it, there was a stronger end game like at launch, those would all be, they wouldn't be bad things, but I also don't expect it at this point. What's here I think is enough, and I just would hate to see this game not get the love and attention and the respect that I think it deserves. It's quality. There's some bugs. It needs more. Of course, add more. But what's here is solid. So I would just say BioWare, just be open, just be transparent, don't give up. Same thing for EA. And I'd say the same thing for, like, if you've been considering Anthem and looking at all the hate and negativity and terrible reception that it's gotten from critics, I don't know. If you think this looks fun, try it out. It is not nearly
There we are. Let's get
as
some power
bad
going.
as everyone would like you to believe. I think the story is definitely better than people give it credit for. I think the gameplay is better. I think the loot's better than people give it credit. I think just everything about it, it's better than people give it credit. So I went into it thinking it was going to be this terrible experience and I'd be so disappointed, and I really enjoy playing this game. So if no one else is going to defend this game, I'm the random guy who's going to speak my 2 cents and say, hey, I actually enjoy this. I like playing this. I want more of this. Yes, make it better. Fix the stuff. Add raids. Put more strongholds in here. Fix, the menus and some of the layout stuff. But it's all minor nitpicky stuff that really, there's hope. It's not going to take a lot to just do all the normal stuff that we know needs to be done to a game like this. So don't let all the hate out there affect your decision. If you wanna play Anthem, you think this looks fun, check it out. I think it's worth it.
Batteries in place. We need to reset the power flow. Another one! Not making this easy, are they? We've got power. We should be able to release the safety lock from the outside. Any lockdown should now be lifted.